Hey, do you have a problem with one of your airbags, that air ride suspension system you have in your rig, and you don't know how to fix it? Well, don't take it to a service center where they can charge you an arm and a leg. Stick around and watch this video and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Yep, that's exactly what happened to me. I went to Transwest. It's a Freightliner authorized service center just south of Fort Collins, Colorado. They gave me a great service. They also gave me a multi-point inspection under the chassis to make sure everything was okay. The technician came out and said, hey, you've got a leaky airbag in the rear. You also have dry rot on both of your airbags, so they need to be replaced. The problem was it was gonna take a week to get those airbags in stock, and because we run a year to volunteer, because we were on our way to a new project, that was a non-starter. They were working, had not completely failed. The air system was able to keep that leaky airbag up, so I made the call to go ahead and continue on here to Nebraska. I found finditparts.com online, but not taking their website for face value. I decided to go ahead and call their sales support staff. I asked them if they had my particular airbag in stock. They didn't, but what they did do is do a series of cross-referencing and found 2 Firestone airbags, which actually matched the 2 that came out of my coach, and they sent them to me here. Prices vary. I was able to pick up both of those airbags for around $550, which is actually a really good price. And because I had some friends here, a year to volunteer, backyard mechanics, even folks who have experience, like this guy back here, Gil Martin, who owns this beautiful show hauler coach, I felt pretty confident that we could get this done here. And let me show you how that went. Okay, here is a representation of an airbag. Yours may be different. This happens to be one of the ones that I had on my Freightliner XCR chassis. The year is 2007, and they came with these airbags. They're manufactured by a bunch of different companies. This one happens to be a Firestone, but SAF Holland is another manufacturer, and I believe those are the OEM airbags for my coach. So I just removed this one to kind of give you an overview of what they look like. Here is a mounting plate bracket. There are 2 frame bolts that hold this this airbag to the frame, and then there's a mounting plate right here with 2 depressions right here. We opted to go ahead and leave the frame plate in place because it looks like it's in good condition, and we only removed the single 3/4 inch nut from this setup to drop the airbag right out, and then we will bolt it in the exact same place. Here is the airline. You can see it's hollow, and there's a compression air fitting that just goes right in there, and I just disconnected that. That required a 1/2 inch wrench. On the bottom, the new ones come with a stud. The stud came off with the bolt, but that is another 1/2 inch bolt because they're not meant to do anything but lift the chassis or take pressure off the chassis away from the drive axle so that you have a much smoother ride. That's why it doesn't take much to hold these babies in place. So this is the airbag. When you do an inspection or you have someone take a look, you will see a bunch of dry rot right here along the edge. Eventually, that will cause your airbag to fail, and if that's the case, you are out of business. They also mentioned that my airbag was leaking. So with a leaking airbag, that's another point of failure for these things. So you have to properly maintain, you properly have to check to make sure that these things are in good shape. So every time I go in for a oil filter change at a Freightliner service center, they do a multiple point inspection across the chassis, and that's when they discovered that these 2 airbags were in pretty bad shape. And here is the new air spring. You can see it's got the same air fitting here. Here is the mounting plate that is on the frame. We removed this, and you can see the little nipples right there that would secure this to keep this thing from spinning. So we're just going to go ahead and replace, well, I'll keep these, but I'm going to go ahead and just replace this nut because these things are hard to get off. They may have corroded in place. They are, I think, 7/8 inch nuts. So we're just going to leave those in place because they're in pretty good shape. And so now I just need to show you how to install these. Also, you can see down here at the end, there's the stud that is screwed into the bottom of the airbag, and that came off, like I said, with my nut. So I'm going to have to either use this or use another 3/4 inch nut, or I'm going to go ahead and work to get that one off. If you're going to work under your coach and you've got jacks, you will see a lot of folks talk about making sure you do not lift your rear end off the ground, and that you also use, if you've got floor jacks or if you've got stands, floor stands, that is a great safety feature. Sometimes you don't have a choice. In this case, we don't have any of that, but I do need to change these airbags. So one recommendation is to raise your rear jacks enough for you to gain access to your airbags, and then to take pressure off of those airbags. You can do this without lifting your rear wheels off the ground. In my case, I felt comfortable by chalking the front of my coach, lifting the rear off of the airbags. You can see that my wheels are still in contact with the ground. The inner wheels, there's a depression, so my outer wheel has lifted a little off the ground, but the inner wheels are firmly on the ground. And then that gave me enough access to get under my coach. And then also when I'm working, there's no point at which the jacks fail would I be crushed in the rear of my coach. There is enough maneuvering room for me to stay safe if the jacks failed. So at this point, I made the tough call to go ahead and just jack the coach up a little bit to give me enough room where my airbags had no pressure on them. All right, that's your airbag, and you can see that the wheels are still on the ground. My jacks are not hyperextended, they're fine, but you can see about 2 inches of the airbag has lifted, so there is no pressure on this airbag whatsoever, and the axle and the wheels are still firmly on the ground. So basically what you have to do, and you can see this is where I removed the other airbag. There's the hole penetration of that bottom stud with nut. And then up there, you can see the bracket with the frame bolts mounted. All you need to do is disconnect the air. See the compression fitting? Disconnect that nut. Disconnect that lower nut. And your airbag will slide right out from the axle. We're going to remove this nut right here, and that will allow us to remove the airbag. Yep. There we go. This bracket, I removed the nut here, which is here, and then that's 3/4 inch. And now I'm going to pull this bag out. I'm going to get the new one, and we're going to mount it back in place. New airbag. I got to get that baby in position. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do it the reverse order. I'm going to align the airbag first. I'm going to put that spiral lock nut on, and I'm going to tighten it down as much as I can, but not too tight. And I'm going to spin that until I feel the airbag pop into those little nibs that are on the top of that, on that base plate, to make sure that it locks into position. I kind of have a guide because I can see exactly where the other airbag was mounted. There's a ring, a rub ring around where that was, so it gives me a guide. but I'm not taking that for granted. I'm just gonna keep spinning it until I feel it pop in a little bit. And you gotta do that to make sure that you don't twist this thing while you're down the road. And if I didn't already mention it, once I'm done with this, because I installed this myself, the next time you go in for some service to your Freightliner service center or wherever, if you have a Spartan chassis, have them double check your work. I mean, that's a small price to pay to make sure that you did it right. I'm going to put a nylock nut as well as a split washer just to make sure it's nice and secure. And then we're going to torque it to 60 foot-pounds. There we go, 60 foot-pounds. Now what we need to do is we need to check, make sure these are all good. But there's your new airbags. There and here. And that is how you do an airbag replacement. We just lowered the jacks, we just inflated them, and they're at proper ride height. These babies are good to go. This is Gil Martin. He owns that beauty right there. And he's already signed a waiver to appear on our videos. But thanks a lot for the help, I really appreciate it, man. Yeah, I needed someone to give me a kind of a counterpoint on making sure that the things, I did it exactly how I was supposed to do it. He gave me some alternate suggestions and we kind of bounced them back and forth. And I chose the decision I made on those plates. Instead of having to remove the frame bolts and that plate, I decided to go with the other option. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and have those checked when I get to the next Freightliner service center, just to make sure I did it correctly, but it looks fantastic. All right, that's it. That took us about 2 hours, plus or minus some familiarization time. I wanted to get under there to make sure that I was good to go and that I could find everything that I needed to find before we got to work. But once that wrench turning started, it really took us no more than a couple of hours. If you like this video, please consider giving us a thumbs up. If you've never seen a year to volunteer this channel, please take a look at our videos. We are full-time RVers. We travel the country with a simple mission: visit and volunteer in all 50 states. Currently, we are on our 15th project in 11 states, and we've got a goal of volunteering for at least 365 volunteer days. And we want folks like you, if you're a part-time or a full-time RVer, or even if you're interested, to join us on one of our projects. This project here in Nebraska is beautiful. Thanks a lot for watching. Consider subscribing and have a great day.